Hi, and welcome to Prepping Essentials.
Regular viewers will know that I had to take out a couple of tomato plants because they'd collapsed, which left me with a load of green tomatoes. And although some of them are slowly changing colour, not all of these will, I feel fairly sure. The temperatures and the sunlight is just not enough now. It's kind of disappeared. So what to do with all of these green tomatoes? Let's find out. Well, here we're in the kitchen. You remember that at the weekend I rescued some tomato plants and pulled off the unripe, the green tomatoes. So I've got a bowl that I've just washed. There's a 1.5 kilos in there. Regular viewers will know that I harvest garlic from my garden. I'm going to use a couple of cloves of that. An onion, there's about 200 grams there. My fruit trees are too young for fruit, so these are from a family member's garden, fresh off the tree today. There's around about 400 grams there. Dried sultanas, I've used those in lots of recipes before. I keep those in my long-term preps. There's about 200 grams there. We'll also be using some sugar, some distilled pickling vinegar. Actually need about 500 ml, but this bottle is 568, so there's a little bit more in there, but I'll just use the whole bottle. And then for seasoning, some salt, some pepper, and a little bit of mixed spice. So I'll get cleared out and we'll start prepping those, and I'll show you what to do with them. I'm just prepping the ingredients. I've already peeled the onion and the garlic. I'm just busy taking the skin off the apples. I'm just popping them in a bowl of water that's got a little bit of lemon juice in there, just to stop them growing brown while I do all of this prep, because they will very quickly. You have to just keep them in that water. Almost there. So that's our apples, onion and garlic. I'm ready to start chopping everything up. Right, we're ready to go. I've just put a towel underneath this chopping board because chopping up these tomatoes can be a little bit messy. Now we're looking for fairly small cubes. We don't want them to be too big. And as you can tell, this is going to be a fairly lengthy process. So what I'll do as I'm going through, I'll just keep knocking off the camera every now and again to save you watching me endlessly cubing up tomatoes or onions or garlic, and I'll just keep giving you little snippets as we go along. Bit of therapy for you. You're going to want a fairly large pan for this, and I'm just wondering as I look at this whether my pan is actually big enough. This is I don't know how many litres this is, to be honest. I suspect it might be a little bit full. I might end up having to swap to my wok, which is far bigger. But having said that, even then I might struggle. but no doubt you'll see as we work our way through what is actually a lot of tomatoes. As I say, there's 1.5 kilos there. So I'll get busy with this and I'll crop up again when I'm chopping the other ingredients up. I've also got my sultanas just soaking in a little bowl of water there. Keep flicking those apples, otherwise they will go brown. So let me crack on with this and I'll update you as I go through the various preps. Well, that's the tomatoes done. I suspect I am going to need a bigger pan. So, repeat now with the onion. To save time and energy, what you could do with these is pop them into a food processor to get them even smaller. But in all honesty, I can't be bothered to drag it out of the cupboard. So I'll just break these up by hand. I'll put them back into this bowl because I'll be tipping the tomatoes and the apples and everything into there to give them a good mix around and get them together before they go into the pan. And I suspect, looking at the size of that pan, I'm going to have to drag the wok out and use that. But I will see. I mean, it will break down once it starts cooking. But as always, we make this stuff up as we go along. There isn't an exact science to it. So let me finish all these other ingredients off and we'll come back to you shortly. Well, the onion and garlic's done. Just busy doing the apple. You can see what I mean about it turning brown. As soon as you take it out of the water and you get it into the air. So, going to be quite speedy with this. Again, no great science to this. Just cut around the core. And then cube it up. Good job you can't see because cutting that onion up, oh, my eyes and my nose are running a bit, and it's right there in front of me. One thing to bear in mind, you are boiling up vinegar in this mix, so you're going to need a few windows open or close some other doors in the house, otherwise the whole house will smell of vinegar, which is not the greatest smell in the world, it has to be said. Anyway, let me get cracked on with this. We're almost there. I'll come back to you shortly. Okay, we've finished chopping up the onion, garlic and apple. I'll just pour back in the tomato. And we've got a tablespoon of salt. I've got some Himalayan pink salt because it's what I've got in the kitchen out already, because I use that in my cooking. So messy time now. Let's mix all that together. I could have done with having less ingredients in this. Quantity, I mean, rather than type of ingredients. But that's the tomatoes that I had from the weekend. You'll have seen it on the weekend video. So I figured I'd just try and use them all up in a one go. Add our sultanas. Mix those through. You will get the opportunity to stir stuff around in the pot as it's cooking anyway, but right, now is that all going to fit in there? Looking at it, I'm doubting it, but just bear with me a second. If it does, great, you'll see shortly. If it doesn't, you'll see a bigger pan coming out. Okay, well, it fits, but literally only just. That is very close to the top. As I said, this should be 500 millilitres, but there's actually 568 in this bottle. So I'm going to use all of this. Wouldn't you know it? It's got one of those squirty tops. So bear with me a second while I get the top off there. And I can pour it in. Just needed to grab a fork. There we go. Okay, so that's ready now. I'll add the pepper, a little bit of ground spice once this has managed to get itself reduced down a little bit. Similarly the sugar, I'm not putting the sugar in right now, I'm just going to let this reduce down. So I'll twizzle the camera around, get this on the hob, and we'll get it boiling up. Right, that's on the hob, so I'll just wait for that to heat up, and then there's going to be a bit of a laborious process trying to stir that pan because it's so full, but it will start to reduce down quite quickly, and I'll add in then at some point the pepper, the allspice and the sugar, but when that's ready I'll come back to you. Okay, as you can see, that's literally just come to the boil. So I'm turning the heat down now so that it just simmers. If you're doing this, get a bigger pan. Unfortunately, I don't have a bigger pan. I guess the more I do things like this, the more I'm going to have to invest in better cooking utensils and implements, because in all honesty, with it just being me, I don't have a need for huge pans until such time as I start doing videos for you guys, when all of a sudden I find I do need a bigger pan. Anyway, that's still a little bit fierce. It wants to come down a little bit in temperature so that it's a simmer rather than a boil. And we're going to leave this to reduce down for an hour before we add the sugar. And because this pan is so full, I'm going to have to be quite diligent in moving this around and bringing the bottom up to the top, if that makes sense. I've no clue if you're getting this on the video or not. I'm hoping you are. Anyway, enough fiddling. I think actually now might not be a bad time to add the pepper. Or I will forget, and I think I might be inclined to also the mixed spice at this point as well, because equally I'll forget. I have done videos before where I've had the ingredients out, particularly things like seasoning or herbs, and you get that wrapped up in trying to make sure that everything's going well, the video's working, that you do forget. So yeah, let me take the chance to do this now. Just get it. Only got a teaspoon here. So as I say, I will forget, I know I will. That mixed spice smells lovely going in there. It really does. The vinegar boiling in my face doesn't smell so good. I've got kitchen window open, living room window open, the door through the corridor to the bedroom closed, because this vinegar smell will linger. I think that temperature just up slightly, I think. Yeah, I think that's okay. Okay, we'll leave that to simmer away for an hour and I'll bring you back shortly. Well, that's been going for about just over 15 minutes, and as you can see now, the everything is breaking down and it's dropped below the line of the liquid. So even though I was taking a bit of a gamble with this, given the size of the pan, it's worked out. You do have to be quite diligent with this and just make sure that it's not catching on the bottom of the pan, and just moving everything around a little bit. So we've got another 45 minutes to go before we add the sugar. I'll move those out the way, otherwise I'll be tempted to put them back in again. I'll have forgotten that I did it. So I'll come back to you a little bit later on, but you can see it is starting to reduce down now, which is what we want. Well, that's been slowly simmering away for exactly an hour now. The lid's propped up. It's really just there to stop splashback when I stir. Don't know if you can see or not on the video, but it's reduced quite a lot. It's probably dropped by a quarter. I've got my jars in a bowl ready with the kettle so that I can sterilise those with boiling water. So now it's time to add the sugar. You've got to be really diligent with this when you're cooking it, and constantly keep checking and stirring the bottom of the pan. You don't want it sticking and then burning. So we'll add this in. Just stir it in. There we go. Now we have to be diligent now for 5 minutes or so and just constantly stir this to try and get that sugar dissolved in and thoroughly mixed in. You can see that's reduced the temperature, it's no longer bubbling and spitting, so it just needs a few minutes to get back to temperature again. So continue stirring that for a couple of minutes just to make sure it is all thoroughly mixed in and give it a chance to dissolve before walking away. And don't go far if you do walk away. Remember, you are going to have to keep stirring this to stop it from burning. Okay, so I'm just waiting for that to start simmering again. I could turn the heat up, but I'm trying to resist the temptation because it'll go beyond where I want it to be and it'll start boiling away. So I'll just stir this for another minute or two while it comes back up to temperature. And then we've got 45 minutes and hopefully it should be something like ready by then. Well, that's been another half an hour and it's starting to thicken up nicely. The level on the liquid's reducing. You've got to be really careful now because we're coming to the part where if you're not constantly stirring it, it's all going to go wrong. That's where we are at the moment. There is still quite a bit of liquid left to reduce out, but just be diligent with stirring it around, making sure it doesn't catch on the bottom of the pan. So I'll continue with this. It's got another 15 minutes to go. It is not an exact science, so take a little look at it once that 45 minutes is up, after you put the sugar in, and just see where you are in terms of liquid. And if I press that down, you see, I'm not sure if you can see in that video or not, as I press that down, there's no longer a lot of liquid rushing over the edge of the spoon, which kind of gives you an indication of where you are. So another 15 minutes and I'll see how it's looking. If it does need a few more minutes, I'll give it a few more minutes, but I'll come back to you shortly. Okay, excuse the noise in the background. We've had the 45 minutes, so for the next, I'll give it another 5 minutes I think, just to thicken it that little bit more. It's entirely personal choice how thick or runny you want this, but since it's a chutney it wants to be fairly solid. So I'm just boiling up water to sterilise the jars. So by the time I'm finished this little extra 5 minutes, kettle will have boiled, jars will be sterilised, and we'll be ready for pouring out into the jars. It's looking good. Okay, that's just had another 5 minutes while I've been pouring boiling water into those jars. So the heat's going to go off now. I'll just pop that to one side so it's not bubbling and spitting. I'll quickly turn the camera around because I need to get the jars emptied out, ready for filling. Now, these are quite small jars, so I am going to struggle a little bit filling these. They're certainly hot. These are just jars really for storage. Long term. Anything that's left over once I've filled these, because I'll give some of these to family and friends. But once I've done these, the rest will go into a plastic tub to go into the fridge. So there's a couple of ways I can do this. That's hot. Couple of ways I can do this. I could ladle it in, or I can decant into this jug and pour in. I don't know how easy or difficult this will be. Okay, let's just make sure we've got everything out. Hot, hot, hot. 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 Little tissues in case I make a mess. So, here we go. Let's get rid of that. Boiling water. I'll save that for the washing up. Move that over here. So, I think yeah, we'll go with that. And we'll see if we can pour it in with this jug. Okay, let's do the big one first. This could be a bit messy. Okay, tissue. There's the first one. I was right, it is messy. So, in theory, that should, hot. I'll just let it off slightly for now, let the air out and then tighten later. Okay, continue filling the jug, because that's not working too badly, to be fair. It is a little bit messy and a little bit dribbly. But it's not too bad. Just got to be slow with it. Bit more. Slightly overfilled that one, but we can fix it. Ah, this is hot, hot, hot. But you get the picture, yeah? He says, like he's the world's expert, which I'm definitely not. All of this, everything pretty much that I do, starts off as a learning experience, and this is no different. Okay, I'll finish off these other jars and come back to you shortly. Well, that's what we ended up with. I've got those 4 small jars, that 1 medium jar. I've got a Tupperware tub, and I've put some in a little bowl, which I'll be using first with my normal meals. So just let those cool down, and then I'll do a little spoon test once it's cool, so you can see what the consistency is like once it's finished. Well, I'm just on busy cooking my dinner, but I thought I'd just very quickly show you what the chutney looks like. So we've gone from humble green tomato to this. Very nice consistency, not too runny, and it's actually still fairly warm, but I'm hungry, I want my dinner. So there we go, green tomato chutney. Bon appetit.
Well, that's another video cooking with your preps. I hope that you found that interesting, and why not give it a go? I think given the weather this year, I'm going to end up with an awful lot of green tomatoes. Some will ripen on the windowsill, but I'm guessing that probably quite a few won't. I don't know, we'll see how the weather goes the rest of this next few weeks. But hopefully you enjoyed that. Are you doing anything different with your preps? Any special recipes you'd like to share with everybody? Let us know in the comments section below. But for now, thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.